Welcome back to Watch Me Podcast. I'm Lauren, but you can call me Lo. And around here, we talk about the stories in your heads, the ones that keep you stuck, small, ashamed, or convinced you are the only one fighting a war nobody else can see. And this episode is about to kick off this little series we'll be doing every few episodes called Let's Talk About It. Because honestly, there are too many things that people are still whispering about. Too many diagnoses people judge before they understand. Too many mental health conversations that say like surface level because everyone is scared to say the real thing out loud. And you know us, this is not what we do here on this podcast. We talk about it. We talk about the messy parts, the misunderstood parts, the parts that people make jokes about because they don't actually know how deeply it affects somebody's life. The parts that make you feel alone in your own mind. The parts that make you wonder, like, why am I like this? When really the better question might be, what is actually going on here and what support do I need? So in this Let's Talk About It series, we are going to get into the diagnosis, into the symptoms, the stigma, the shame, the tools, and the real life impact of mental health. And not in like a cold textbook kind of way, right? We're going to do that lived it, cried about it, learned how to do it, and work with it kind of way. Because I don't want to just like define these things. I want to talk about what they look like when you are trying to work or parent or love or keep up with life or manage your brain and still believe you are not broken. We are going to get into the nitty gritty, the stuff people miss, the stuff people judge, the stuff that makes you feel like you are the only one. And today, to start off our Let's Talk About It series, we're going to talk about ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. It's had so many names throughout the years. When I was diagnosed 17 years ago, it was just ADD, attention deficit disorder. There's so many other ways to say it, but attention deficit is what we're going to be talking about because this one is personal to me. And I'm not talking about like ADHD from the outside looking in. I'm not talking about it because I watched 3 TikToks and like related too hard and decided to make it my personality. No, like I have lived this. I was diagnosed with ADD in 2008 and I have been medicated ever since. So when I talk about ADD, ADHD, I am talking about something that has affected my school life, my work life, my motherhood, confidence, self-trust, and the way I learn to see myself. Before we get into this, people, I'm going to say this as clearly as I can. I am not a doctor. I am not here to diagnose you. I am speaking from lived experience and research and the desire to help people feel less alone. If this episode makes you think like, oh shit, this sounds like me, please talk to a medical professional. Do not let a podcast be your diagnosis, but do not ignore yourself either. Because sometimes that little like, wait, is it me moment is worth paying attention to, and that's why we're here. So today I want to talk to you about what people think ADHD is, what it can actually look like, why the stigma is so harmful, how it shows up in adults and women's and moms and kids, and what actually helps. We're going to be talking about medication too, because medication is a tool. And honestly, fuck what they think. Fuck what they think if medication helps us. We will get there. But first, let's take it back. Let's go all the way back to school for me. So I've been out of school for almost 20 years now, but I will never forget my junior year of high school studying for this history test. I went to a college prep high school where everyone was smart. And if you weren't smart, being dumb was like not cool and you were a loser. And so like studying was really big. And when I say I studied, I mean like I studied. I tried for weeks, it felt like. I sat there, I read, I reviewed, I did the thing everyone tells you to do when you're struggling, study harder, pay attention, apply yourself, try more. And then I took the test and I failed. And this was not some random one-time thing either. That was the pattern for me. I could study for hours and still fail. I could want to do well and still not get it. I could sit in class and listen, trying to absorb the information, trying to be the kind of student everyone kept telling me I should be. But I just felt like this information would not stick. Like my brain could not grab it and hold it and like put it where it needed to go. And nothing messes with your self-esteem quite like trying your hardest and still being treated like you didn't try at all. Like before I was diagnosed, I heard all the usual things. She talks too much. She does not apply herself. She's smart, but whatever. She does not pay attention to detail. That was a huge one for me. She does not pay attention to detail. She focuses when she wants to. And that last one, it still gets me. She focuses when she wants to, because from the outside, it sounds like a choice. It sounds like, well, you can focus on things you like. So clearly you're choosing not to focus on everything else. And that's like one of the biggest misunderstandings about ADHD. ADHD is not about not caring. Sometimes you care so much and your brain will still not cooperate. You can be trying and listening and studying and sitting there silently begging your brain to do the thing everyone else seems to do so easily, and still it doesn't click. When adults told me I was smart, but I wasn't applying myself, I didn't hear, like, you have potential. What I heard was something was wrong with me. I heard you should be able to do this, but you can't. I heard everyone else can figure this out. Why can't you? And honestly, that, like, you have so much potential line sounds nice until you're the kid hearing it after every failure. Because eventually it doesn't feel like encouragement anymore. It feels like proof that everyone believes you could succeed if you would just stop being you for a minute. And when you're a kid, you don't have the language for executive dysfunction. You don't know how to explain working memory. You don't know how to say, my brain is overwhelmed and I cannot organize this information the way you want me to. So you make it mean something about you. I thought I was dumb, that I was lazy, that I was broken. I thought everyone else got the instruction manual for life and mine just like got lost in the mail somewhere. And that's why this diagnosis mattered so much for me. When I was diagnosed, it felt validating. It felt relieving. It was like, okay, there's a reason I'm like this. I was not dumb. I was not broken. I was not just bad at being a person. My brain worked differently. And with support and tools and medication, I could function in a way that finally felt possible. And sometimes the most healing thing is not someone fixing you. Sometimes it's someone finally explaining you. And I think that's one part of ADHD that people don't talk about enough. That diagnosis, it can feel relieving. And it can feel validating. It can feel like, oh my God, there is a reason. I'm not just lazy or broken. I'm not just bad at life. But, but there is a little wave of grief that comes with it. Because once you understand your brain, you start looking back. I look back all the time, all the tests I failed after studying, the college I dropped out of, the things I could have done if I could have focused, I think about the teachers that said I was smart, but not applying yourself. I think about all the times I called myself dumb or lazy or dramatic or careless. And I wonder, like, what would have been different if I knew sooner? And that part is so real. And I don't want to skip over it because for a lot of adults, especially people diagnosed later or people who went years without the right support, the ADHD diagnosis is not just an answer, it's a reframe of your whole life. It's a relief that can actually sting because suddenly you realize you weren't broken, you were unsupported. And that's a hard truth to hold. And here's the part I want you to hear. You cannot go back and give your younger self the tools they needed, but you can stop denying yourself those tools now. So now you know, right? Now you have the language, now you have the context, and now you can stop treating your brain like the enemy and start asking it what actually helps. So let's talk about stereotypes because ADHD has turned into this like punchline. Like people think ADHD is just being hyper, a little boy bouncing off the walls in class, interrupting, talking too much, being messy or dramatic, being addicted to your phone or being irresponsible, bad at adulting, bad at parenting, overdiagnosed, right? People say ADHD is overdiagnosed or just an excuse. And listen, can people use anything as an excuse? Absolutely. Totally, we can. Blame a zodiac sign for emotionally terrorizing everyone around them. So, yes, human can weaponize everything. But ADHD itself is not an excuse. It is context. Because when you do not understand the context of what ADHD is, you judge the behavior wrong. You see the messy room and call someone lazy. You see the forgotten text and call someone careless. Someone runs late and suddenly they're disrespectful. A task doesn't get finished and now they're irresponsible. A kid can't sit still and everyone labels them as a bad kid. A mom is overwhelmed and people act like she just needs to get it together. But maybe there's more going on. Maybe they are trying harder than you can see. Maybe the struggle is not about caring. Maybe their brain needs structure and tools and treatment or a different way of doing life. And that's the conversation I want to have because ADHD is not a joke. It's not a cute little, oops, I forgot why I walked into the room moment. I mean, that happens a lot. But ADHD can affect your education, your work, your relationships, parenting, confidence, self trust, emotions, time management, task initiation, and follow through. And that's not just quirky, that's like daily functioning. And for the people who still think ADHD is fake, trendy, or just an excuse to be lazy, no. Okay. ADHD is a real neurodevelopmental condition. It can start in childhood and continue into adulthood. It can involve inattention, impulsivity, hyperactivity, emotional regulation, struggles, working memory issues, and executive function challenges. So when people says, why does everyone have ADHD now? First of all, unclench your butthole. Chill out. Okay. Second, it's just happening because more people are recognizing it. This is a good thing. Having these conversations is a good thing. The more we have these conversations, the more people are going to get diagnosed and get the help they need. More adults are getting evaluated. More women are realizing they've been masking for years. More people are looking back at their childhood and their grades and their overwhelm and their procrastination and their inability to function the way everyone told them they should. And they're finally going like, wait, maybe I wasn't lazy. Maybe I needed help. That's not everyone suddenly inventing ADHD. That is people finally getting language. And language matters because once you have language, you can stop beating yourself up for something you didn't understand. And ADHD can look like a lot of things, okay? It can look like thoughts that don't shut the hell up. Not cute like, oh, I have a lot on my mind thoughts. No, I mean your brain is jumping from work to the kids to the appointment you forgot to schedule to the podcast idea to needing paper towels to the text you never answered to the one weird thing you said in 2014 that your brain has apparently decided needs a review right now. Love that. Love that for all of us, right? Very productive. It can feel like your brain has 75 tabs open, 12 are playing music, one is frozen, and none of them are labeled. And ADHD can also look like walking into a room and forgetting why you went there, and then remembering 3 hours later when it's no longer, it doesn't matter anymore. I'm not even there. It can look like finally remembering the thing you needed to do, but only at the moment inconvenient as possible. Like your brain waits until you're driving or showering or standing in the school pickup line going, hey, remember that email you ignored for 6 days? Like, okay, really helpful. Love the timing. Awesome, right? It can look like buying the birthday card, writing the birthday card, putting the birthday card somewhere safe, and then finding it 2 months later, like, well, shit. Okay. And listen, that does not mean you don't care. That is the part people misunderstand. People with ADHD can forget names and dates and birthdays, appointments, and details about people they genuinely love and then feel horrible because other people read it as carelessness. It's not always forgetting because something doesn't matter. Sometimes it matters so much your brain still drops it like a hot potato in a windstorm, okay? Then someone says like, "Oh, just focus." Wow, thank you. It's just didn't think of that. Groundbreaking, right? But that's the thing people miss. It's not the lack of attention. Sometimes it's so much attention that my attention is everywhere and it's on everything all at once. The noise in the room, the thought in your head, the task in front of you, the thing you forgot, the deadline coming, the emotion building, the person talking nearby, the fact that your socks feel weird. And no wonder people with ADHD are tired. ADHD also, though, ready, can make conversations hard. Once again, not because you don't care. Sometimes that you care so much that your brain is trying to listen and then remember your response. Don't interrupt. Read the other person's tone, track the story, look engaged, and not drift into another thought at the same time. That's a lot. And that's not just a conversation. That is like mental gymnastics, people. And then you interrupt. I do this a lot. Or overshare. Oh my God, I'm the queen of oversharing. Forget what someone said or tell a story with 14 side quests and people think you're rude. Sometimes you are not rude. Your brain, let me tell you this right now, is moving faster than your mouth, your memory, and your social filter can keep up with. And then ADHD can look like oversharing. I do this a lot and walking away thinking like, oh my God, why did I say all of that? It could look like boredom that feels physically uncomfortable. It can look like avoiding a task that matters because your brain cannot find the entry point. There are days when starting the thing feels harder than doing the thing. And that sounds ridiculous though until you live it. You can know exactly what needs to be done and still feel frozen. You can care about the outcome so much and still not start. You can have the deadline, the list, the reminder, the plan, and somehow your brain is like, interesting. Anyway, what if we reorganized our entire pantry instead? Cute. Happens to me a lot. Annoying though, very on brand. Sometimes it looks like starting one email or like staring at one email like it's a wild animal. Like you know you need to answer it. You know it would probably only take 3 minutes to answer it. You've thought about it 47 times. You emotionally carried the weight of that email for a week. But actually opening, absolutely not. We're not doing that. And then the shame starts because now it's not just an email. Now it's the email plus the guilt, plus the embarrassment, plus the why am I like this, plus the fear that the person on the other end thinks you're rude or irresponsible. And that's how a tiny task becomes a whole damn villain. And when I say open the document counts as a step, I mean it. Sometimes the win is not finishing. Sometimes the win is getting your brain through the front door. Then there's the hyper focus aspect of ADHD. This is where people get confused because they'll say, well, you focused on that one thing for 6 hours. So clearly you can focus. Yes, but that is the point. ADHD is not always I can't focus. A lot of the times it's I can't always regulate where my focus goes. When something lights me up, I can lock in, I can create, I can problem solve, I can see connections fast. My brain can move quickly and creatively. When I care about something, I can hyper focus like nobody's business. Okay. That part is a superpower, feels like a superpower. But I need us to be honest here. Some parts of ADHD, sure, do feel like a superpower. Other parts feel like I'm fighting my own brain with a plastic fork. Both can be true. The creativity can be real and the struggle can be real. The hyper focus can be powerful and the executive dysfunction can still kick your ass. The big ideas can be exciting and the daily details can still make you want to scream into a throat pillow. If we only talk about ADHD like it's a superpower, we erase the hard parts. We only talk about it like it's a disaster. We erase the strengths. I'm not here to romanticize ADHD. I'm also not here to shame it. I'm here to tell the truth. Some parts are powerful, some parts are a pain in the ass, but all of it deserves support. So let's talk about what ADHD actually affects, because ADHD is not just I got distracted. That's the watered down version. ADHD is a neurodevelopmental condition, and it is marked by patterns of inattention or hyperactivity and impulsivity that make it harder to function in daily life. The National Institute of Mental Health says ADHD can interfere with home, school, work, relationships, and adult ADHD can show up through poor time management, planning, and organization. So when someone says ADHD affects their whole life, believe them. It can affect attention, yeah, but it also can affect executive function, working memory, emotional regulation, time management, organization, task initiation, impulsivity, communication, relationships, and even rest. And that's why ADHD is so misunderstood, because people see the behavior on the outside, but they don't see what the brain is trying to manage underneath it. A big piece of ADHD is executive function. Executive function is basically the brain's management system. It helps you organize and prioritize and start tasks and stop tasks and switch between tasks and remember what you're doing and manage emotions, thinking through consequences, and keeping yourself moving toward the thing you're meant to do. Okay. And what the Mental Health Institute describes executive function challenges in ADHD, this is a difficulty with organizing tasks, difficulty getting started, staying engaged, staying alert, managing emotional state, using your working memory, or recalling information. So when someone with ADHD says they have 15 lists and still feel like they're forgetting something, that's not them being dramatic. That's their brain trying to build this external system because their internal system is overloaded. Executive function is why a task can look simple from the outside, but can feel like a full body event on the inside. Clean the kitchen sounds like one task on a list, but it is not one task. It is noticing what needs to be done, deciding where to start, remembering what you were doing, not getting distracted by the pile of mail, not abandoning the dishes halfway through because you found a school form, managing the frustration of being overwhelmed, and then actually finishing. That is not one task. Did you see how many things I listed there? That's why we're tired. It is not always the task. It's everything the brain has to do to get through the tasks. And then ADHD can also affect your working memory. Working memory is your brain's ability to hold information long enough to use it. So ADHD evaluations may include tests that look like cognitive skills like working memory and executive functioning, planning, decision making, and reasoning. And that's why just remember it is not a real system. I can hear the instruction, I can understand the instruction, I fully intend to follow the instructions, and then 5 minutes later, my brain has launched into outer space like, hope you wrote that down, babe. That does not mean it didn't matter. It means my brain did not hold on to it long enough for me to use it. This is why I need reminders. It's why I write things down. It's why I use alarms. It's why I cannot rely on memory alone and then act shocked when memory portrays me like a shady little gremlin. Okay, my brain is brilliant. My brain is creative. My brain can connect ideas quickly. She is not always reliable with details. No, she is not. So we have systems, and that is not a weakness. That is me knowing myself. ADHD also affects time. This one is huge. Poor time management, planning, and organization are common adult ADHD symptoms. And ADHD can affect executive function and working memory, which are part of that guiding behavior across time. In real life, this can feel like time does not exist until it's yelling at you. A deadline 3 weeks away feels fake. And then suddenly it's tomorrow and your nervous system's on fire and your brain's like, great news, now we care. Cute, terrible timing. That's like, did you ever like put stuff off at school until like the very last minute? And you're like, yeah, I can write that paper in like 5 minutes, as long as I have that pressure of time. And time blindness can look like thinking something will take 10 minutes, but sometimes it takes an hour. It can look like getting ready early and still being late because every tiny step took longer than your brain expected. It can look like saying, I'll do that later, and later becomes 3 weeks, 6 reminders, and a shame spiral. Okay. It can look like 5 minutes feeling like nothing and 2 hours disappearing and tomorrow not feeling real until it becomes today. And that's why just plan ahead is not always as simple as people think. Planning ahead requires your brain to emotionally believe the future is real. And sometimes my brain is like, no, thank you. We live in this exact moment and this vibe. And that is very inconvenient. Okay. But besides timing, ADHD really does affect your emotions as well. And that's the piece a lot of people miss. So the National Mental Health Institute, that's where I did a lot of my research, includes like maintaining emotional state and self-monitoring and regulating actions as part of executive function challenges. So ADHD is not always just about attention. For many people, it's also about regulation. And that means that criticism can hit harder. Frustration can come faster. Shame can spiral quickly. Rejection can feel massive. A small mistake can turn into, why am I like this? Why can't I function? Why does everything feel harder for me? And if nobody explains that emotional regulation can be part of ADHD, you just think you're dramatic. You think you're too sensitive or you're overreacting. You think your feelings are the problem when really your brain may be struggling to regulate the volume of those feelings. That does not mean every reaction is okay. All right. It does not mean you get to snap at people and blame ADHD. We don't do that. But it means there's a reason some emotions feel like they come in hot and fast. Okay. And once you understand that, you can start building tools around it. Pause before responding, walk away before the spiral gets louder. Write the thought down before sending the text. Is this urgent or does it just feel urgent? That question alone can save you from a lot of chaos. Now, also, ADHD can affect motivation and starting. That is one of the most frustrating parts of people because people think motivation is like about caring, but ADHD can make task initiation so hard, especially when something is boring or vague or overwhelming or repetitive or emotionally loaded. Getting started and remaining engaged as executive function challenges is so tied to ADHD. So it's not only like I don't care about this task, sometimes it's I care, but I can't like get my brain through the front door. That email sure might take me 3 minutes. I know it'll only take 3 minutes. I've thought about it 47 times. I've written the response in my head while I was driving and showering and cooking dinner and trying to sleep. But opening the email and doing the thing? Absolutely not. Now it is not just an email. It is an email plus guilt plus embarrassment plus fear plus everything. And that's like the win is starting. And that I think is also really hard about motivation is because I have all these dreams. It's me. I'm talking to you as Lauren, like me. I have all these dreams. I have all these things I want to do. And the motivation and the task, like just the starting takes me forever. And I have to celebrate each little win or each little starting point as a win because it takes me forever. And it also affects like your attention, but not always in the way people think, right? It's not always like I can't focus. A lot of times it's not, I can't reliably control where my focus goes, right? Like staying on task or whatever. And attention can scatter everywhere or can lock into one thing so the rest of the world forgets or like disappears, right? You can forget to eat. You can lose track of time. You can sit down to work on one thing and accidentally spend 2 hours deep diving something completely unrelated because your brain found it interesting. Have you ever done that? You sat down for a task where you Google something and then you end up Googling, like you started with how do planes fly and you ended up talking about gray elephants in Egypt and you're all of a sudden you are a like know-it-all on that subject. People love to say, right, well, you focused on that, so clearly you can focus. Well, yeah, but that's the point. The issue is not always attention existing. The issue is regulating where it goes, how long it stays, whether it shows up when life needs it. Whenever I need to pay attention, I can't pay attention. Happens all the time. Whenever I need to, I just can't. Now, this is one I've struggled with a lot, is impulsivity. ADHD can affect impulse control. And impulsivity is not always some wild, reckless thing. Sometimes it's interrupting because the thought feels like it has a 3-second expiration date. Have you somebody been talking and you talk over them and you don't mean to be rude, but like, what if you forget your thought, right? Sometimes it's saying yes before checking your capacity. Sometimes it's starting 5 projects because they all feel very exciting in that moment. And then realizing now you have 5 open loops and 0 energy. Sometimes it's buying something because in that exact second, it feels very necessary. And then later you're like, why did I think I needed that? Sometimes it's sending the text too fast, reacting before you process, or switching topics mid-conversation because your brain really just jumped ahead. So impulsivity is one of the core symptoms of the categories of ADHD, including interrupting, intruding, and having trouble waiting. Again, this does not remove accountability. If impulsivity affects other people, repair matters. But understanding it helps you build that pause, right? And for ADHD, sometimes that pause has to be built on purpose. A breath, a timer, a note, a let me check my calendar and get back to you. And that one sentence can save your whole week. I love to impulse buy. And let me tell you my thing. If I go on Amazon and I don't want to wait, so I live in California and I live by a lot of distribution centers, so I can get things same day. If I don't want to wait, if it says like overnight and I'm like, I don't want to wait till overnight, then obviously I don't need it. That's like one of the things for me. If I don't want to wait for it, that means I don't need it and I don't buy it. If I can't wait for it, I don't need it. Unless it's like obviously like an emergency or something, but that's one of my like key triggers. If I don't want to wait for it, if I get annoyed that I have to wait overnight, then I don't need to buy it. Okay. So let's talk about organization and clutter. ADHD can affect organization and clutter is not always laziness. Sometimes clutter is just delayed decisions. It's 5 tasks stacked into one task. Put this away sounds simple. Okay. But for an ADHD brain, it can mean deciding where it goes, remembering the system, making the space for the thing, moving something else to make space, not getting distracted, not starting a new project, and actually returning to the original task. So yes, the pile on the counter might look simple to someone else, but to an ADHD brain, it can feel like a group project with no leader. Like, people are often shame the mess without understanding what the mess represents. The pile might not mean I don't care. It's just I ran out of executive function. I'll try this again tomorrow. It might mean I did not know where to put this, so it became invisible, but also emotionally loud. It might mean this stack of decisions I couldn't make it this time. And that's why realistic systems matter. Not perfect systems, not Pinterest systems, systems for the version of you who is tired and overstimulated and late and being asked for a snack by a child who just ate 11 minutes ago, okay? ADHD can also affect communication and relationships. So the National Mental Health Institute says ADHD symptoms can strain social relationships, and it includes interrupting or intruding as possible impulsivity systems like we just talked about. In real life, that could mean interrupting because your thought feels like it'll disappear if you don't say it right now. It can look like drifting off while someone's talking to them and feel awful because you actually care what they said, but you totally lost your train of thought. It can look like forgetting a detail they told you and then hating yourself because you knew that detail mattered. It can look like oversharing because your brain took one story and opened 14 side stories. It can look like being accused of not listening when you were trying so hard to listen that you were exhausted. And relationships can get complicated because caring and consistently showing it are not always the same skill. You can love someone and still forget the thing. You can care deeply and still miss the detail. You can wait to be present and still drift. Again, impact matters. If your ADHD hurts someone, you still need to repair, systems, and accountability. But the first interpretation doesn't always need to be you don't care. Sometimes the more accurate question is what support would help not keep this happening. Sleep and rest, right? ADHD can affect rest, and rest is not just about sleeping. Rest is being able to settle your brain. And ADHD can co-occur with sleep problems, anxiety, depression, learning disorders, and other conditions. If you have ADHD, you know the bedtime brain is rude. The house finally gets quiet. Everyone needs less from you. The lights are off. You are exhausted. And then your brain says, perfect. Let's review every unfinished task, every awkward conversation, every idea we've ever had. And also, let's maybe redesign the bedroom while we're at it. And we love that ambition, but we hate the timing, right? And ADHD rest struggles can also look like needing stimulation to relax. Scrolling because silence feels too loud. Staying up too late because nighttime is the only time nobody's asking you for anything. Or feeling tired all day and wired the second you should be asleep. That does not mean every sleep issue is ADD, but ADHD can absolutely complicate rest, especially when your brain's been running hot all day. So, okay, great. What's all this? Why does it matter? This is why ADHD affects real life. School gets harder. Work gets harder. Relationships get harder. Motherhood gets harder. Self-trust gets harder. Not because people with ADHD are careless, not because they're dumb or they're lazy, but because the brain is managing attention and memory and time, emotion, stimulation, task switching, organization, and follow through differently. And once you understand that, the conversation changes. It stops being like, why are you like this? It becomes what support would actually help. And that is the shift I care about because ADHD is not an excuse. It is context, and context gives you somewhere to start. So I want to talk about medication because people have a lot of opinions about ADHD medication. And I'm going to be honest, at this point in my life, fuck what they think if it helps us. Seriously, if medication helps you function, focus, work, parent, regulate yourself, complete tasks, quiet the noise, and feel like you can actually live inside your own brain with a little more peace, then that matters to me more than someone else's opinion. Medication is not failure. Medication is not weakness. It is not cheating. It is not taking the easy way out. And for some of us, me included, mostly me, medication is the tool that gives us access to the version of ourselves we've been trying so hard to be. I'm going to be honest, I have lost jobs not being medicated. I've tried so hard. There have been times, there's been shortages. Right after COVID, there was a shortage. Maybe 15 years ago, I lost a job because I was not medicated and I thought I didn't need medication and I could not focus and I let things slip through the crack and I lost my job. I need medication. And I know people have their stances. Some people do not like medication. Some people think that everyone is over medicated. Some people think ADHD medication is unnecessary. Some people think you should just meditate and drink water, use a planner, go outside, cut out red food dye, and magically become a different person. Cool. Love water. Love a planner. Love a little walk outside, like the next emotionally unstable millennial trying to regulate her nervous system. My brain still needs medication, and I am done being ashamed of that. Medication is a legitimate treatment option for ADHD. It is not the only tool. It is not for every single person. It is something to discuss with a medical professional, but shaming people for using medication that helps them is harmful. And for me, medication does not make the world perfect. It just turns the volume down enough for me to hear myself think. When I looked at real conversations from adults with ADHD, medication stigma came up again and again. People talked about feeling nervous to ask doctors for help because they didn't want to be treated like they were drug seeking, weak, or just looking for an easy fix. And that pisses me off because that is what stigma does. It makes people feel guilty for trying to function. It makes people sit in the struggle longer than they need to because they're worried about how someone else will judge the tool that helps them live. And shaming medication does not make people safer. It makes people silent. We love to judge the tool when they don't have to live with the struggle. They are not sitting in your brain trying to catch 75 thoughts at once. They are not trying to focus at work while your mind runs in 6 different directions. Nobody else is managing your motherhood, your deadlines, your details, your emotions, your schedule, and that constant low-level fear that you're forgetting something important. And they're definitely not there when you're growing up thinking you were lazy, dumb, too much, careless, or broken. So no, they do not get the loudest voice. Your health matters, your functioning matters, your peace matters, your ability to show up for your life matters. If medication is part of what helps you do that, use that tool. No shame, no apology, no explaining yourself to people that are committed to misunderstanding you. Medication does not give me character. I already had that, okay? It doesn't give me my personality. It helped me access that focus and that clarity and the steadiness I needed to use the character I already had. And that is the part that people miss. A lot of us with ADHD, we're always trying. We were always fighting. We were always working harder than people realize. Medication did not make me care. I already cared. It just helped me function. There is a difference. So yeah, if someone wants to judge that, fuck what they think. I'm the one who has to live in this brain. I choose support. Now, let's talk about high functioning ADHD because this is where people really misunderstand it. From the outside, I can look organized. I have lists. I plan my week ahead. I use calendar reminders. I set timers. There are daily reminders on my phone. I have brain dump lists. I get things done when I have bursts of energy. When something matters to me, I can hyper-focus and I can become a machine. So people may look at that and think like you're fine. But what they don't see is what it costs to look fine. They don't see the million post-it notes so I don't forget something important. They don't see the mental tabs constantly open. Nobody sees that inner turmoil of doubting myself and my brain the whole way through. They don't see how tired I am from snapping my focus back into place over and over again. They do not see me trying to work while my brain keeps bouncing. They don't see that I can have 15 lists and still feel like I'm forgetting something. They don't see me managing my work or my kids or my home, my podcast, my appointments, my reminders, the school stuff, and a life while my brain is like, absolutely the fuck not. They see organized, they don't see exhausted. They see productive, they don't see the scaffolding holding it up. They see me getting it done, but they don't see the systems required to make that happen. And sometimes the reason I looked organized is because I'm terrified of what happens when I'm not. My lists are not cute little productivity habits. They are survival lists. Sometimes I finish something and instead of feeling proud, I feel relieved that I didn't drop the ball. There are scattered notes and reminders and half-finished lists inside other lists and brain dumps that started as a get organized and somehow turned into full psychological excavation, okay? Because high-functioning ADHD is not, I have it all together. Sometimes it's, I built an entire external life support system for my brain and please don't touch it or it'll mess up. High-functioning ADHD does not mean easy ADHD. It means hidden ADHD. It means people cannot always see how much work it takes to keep up. And if you are the person who looks successful but feels like your brain is held together with duct tape and post-it notes and phone alarms, I need you to hear me. You are not making it up. You are not dramatic. You are not lazy because you need systems. Being capable does not mean things are easy. Getting it done does not mean it did not cost you. You deserve support before you hit the wall, not just after you collapse. And speaking of high-functioning ADHD, let's talk about women and moms specifically. Because ADHD in women can be sneaky, not because it's less real, but because it often gets buried under masking and overcompensating and anxiety and perfectionism and people pleasing and the constant pressure to look like you have your shit together. So research shows that women with ADHD are often missed or diagnosed later, especially when symptoms look like outward hyperactivity and more like internal restlessness, disorganization, emotional overwhelm, forgetfulness, low self-esteem, or I'm functioning but barely. And then let's add motherhood on top of it. Motherhood does not create ADHD, but it can absolutely expose it. Because motherhood is basically one giant executive function test that nobody warned you about. You're tracking appointments and school forms and work and deadlines and dinner and laundry, emotional needs, schedules, snacks, shoes, birthdays, permission slips, medication, dentist appointment, random spirit days, and then the fact that somebody needs a plain white shirt by tomorrow morning even though they told you at bedtime. And the hard part is, none of those things are individually impossible. That's what makes you feel crazy. One permission slip is not hard. One appointment is not hard. One lunchbox is not hard. But carrying all of it at the same time while your brain is already trying to keep itself online, that's where the overwhelm comes from. It is not one thing. It is that constant switching, the constant remembering, the constant interruption, the constant feeling that if you relax for 5 seconds, something important is going to fall through the cracks. And that is not just being busy. That is planning and prioritizing and remembering and managing time. Those are executive function demands. And ADHD directly affects executive function, remember? So when a mom with ADHD says she's overwhelmed, she is not being dramatic. Her brain is trying to run a household and a job and her own emotions and her kids' needs and a never-ending mental checklist. That is why that mental load hits differently. From the outside, she might look capable. She's got the calendar, the planner, the list, the reminders, the Target pickup orders. But inside, she is running a full mental command center with a glitchy Wi-Fi signal. And if something slipped, that shame comes fast because moms are already expected to be everything for everybody. Add ADHD to that, and suddenly you're not just worried about being disorganized. You are worried people think you are careless or lazy or irresponsible or a bad mom. And that stigma is bullshit. Your ADHD does not make you a bad mom. It means your brain may need more support in that role than demands constant executive function. You may need reminders. You may need medication. You may need lists. You may need fewer invisible expectations. You may need help from your partner, your family, your school, your doctor, your therapist. And none of that means you love your kid less. It means you are parenting with a brain that needs systems. There is a difference. For a long time, I thought if I beat myself up enough, I would finally become the kind of person who remembered everything and stayed focused and stayed consistent and did not need so many reminders. That did not make me better. That made me tired. What actually helped was getting honest about my brain is I need lists. I need reminders. I need timers. I need to write things down before my brain launches them into outer space. I need to plan my week before the week actually starts. That is not me being extra. That is me building support where my brain needs support. And honestly, that's the difference between fighting your ADHD and working with it. And I also want to say something about motherhood and emotional regulation with ADHD. I didn't plan on talking about this, but it's come to me, and we're going to talk about it because I think it's really important. So when I'm not medicated with my ADHD or my ADHD is bad and I am overwhelmed, and then my kids make me really overwhelmed by saying, Mom, I need this, I need that, I need this, blah, blah, blah. Or they need reprimand because they're hitting each other and then they're yelling and then they're playing with a kazoo or a train whistle and the TV is going. And my husband with ADHD he's yelling and screaming and racking the kids up. I'm going to get mad because I cannot focus and I explode. And that happens because I can't emotionally regulate or even regulate what's happening in my own mind, and I explode. And that happens. And that is okay. You just have to own up to it and apologize and realize you need to remove yourself from the situation. A lot of times when my kids start going and I just can't handle it, I have to be honest with them and being like, I don't want to yell at you. I don't want to blow up. I am feeling very overwhelmed right now and mommy needs a break. And that can happen and that can be real. And I have shame about that. And I wish that didn't happen to me, but it does happen to me and it's realistic. And that's what we talked about, right? It's like not the fact that it does happen. It's the fact that we have to realize it happens, apologize and repair and create systems so it doesn't happen. But that is a real ADHD motherhood thing is I get overwhelmed really easily. I do. And having kids is a very overwhelming experience. And so my attention or my patience when I feel overwhelmed because of my ADHD snaps like that. Medication, this is why medication for me especially is so important is because medication allows me to organize my thoughts and not feel so overwhelmed all the time. So when I'm medicated, I don't blow up as my kids as much from this ADHD overwhelm, that perspective. Who knows what else I'll blow up about. I'm trying. We're all trying to be good parents. So let's bring this back though, because we're talking about kids. Let's bring this back to kids for a minute. Because I was that kid. I was the kid who talked too much. I was the kid who was smart, but not applying herself. I was the kid who didn't pay attention to detail. I was the kid who could focus when she wanted to. And the kid who studied and still failed. And I wonder what would have changed if someone had said, you're not dumb. Your brain works differently. We're going to figure out and how to help you. That sentence would have changed so much for me because before we call a child lazy or bad, dramatic, difficult, defiant, disrespectful, or too much, maybe we need to ask what support they're missing. Maybe the behavior is not the whole story. Maybe that kid is overwhelmed. Maybe they can't organize the steps. Maybe they didn't process the instruction. Maybe they forgot the assignment because out of sight, out of mind. That's a big one. Maybe they're embarrassed and they already feel stupid. Maybe every correction is landing on top of a shame they don't know how to explain. And no, that doesn't mean kids don't need boundaries. No, that's not what they do. Adults need boundaries too. Some of us need boundaries with Amazon Prime, but that is a separate episode, right? The point is not never correct a child with ADHD. The point is, do not shame them into believing their brain makes them bad. Support the need, teach the tool, hold the boundary, protect the dignity. That combination matters because kids grow into adults. And the way we talk to kids the way we talk to kids becomes the way they talk to themselves. If all a kid hears is you're lazy, you're difficult, you're not trying, you're too much, one day that kid becomes an adult who thinks they're lazy and difficult, not trying, and too much. Then they spend years trying to heal from language that was never even accurate to begin with. That's why this conversation matters. So let's make this practical. Here's some things we need to stop saying to people with ADHD. Now, before I get into this, stay tuned if you want tools. I do have 12 tools later on in this episode that we're going to talk about on how I handle my ADHD. But for right now, we're going to talk about things we need to stop saying to people with ADHD. Everyone has ADHD now. No, everyone gets distracted. Everyone forgets things. Everyone procrastinates sometimes. That is not the same thing as having a condition that can interfere with school, work, relationships, times, and daily functioning. And can we stop acting like forgetting something important automatically means someone doesn't care? Yes, accountability matters. If you keep forgetting something that hurts someone, you need a system, set the reminder, use the calendar, put support. But that first interpretation does not always need to be like you don't care. Sometimes it's your brain did not hold on to the information. And there's a difference between explaining and excusing. It does not erase impact, but it does explain why the same pattern keeps happening and what kind of support might actually help. That nuance matters, okay? Because people with ADHD are not asking for a free pass. They're asking to stop being shamed long enough to build a better system. You just need to try harder. Okay, a lot of people with ADHD are trying really hard, like painfully hard. And trying harder is not always the answer. Sometimes the answer is trying differently. You are using ADHD as an excuse. No, it is not an excuse. It is just context, and context helps us choose better tools. You focus when you want to. Throw that one straight in the dumpster. ADHD is not always about whether someone wants to focus. It's about regulating that attention, stimulation, motivation, and executive function. You don't look like you have ADHD. I'm sorry, what? What exactly are we supposed to look like? A squirrel holding a planner and crying in a Target parking lot? No. Can we retire the squirrel jokes, please? Okay, we're tired. The squirrel has left the building. Maybe you just need a better routine. Routines help, yes. Systems help. I love a good routine in theory. In practice, my brain sometimes treats routine like a suggestion from someone it doesn't respect. Okay? So yes, routines matter. But please don't say it like the person just never thought of buying a planner. A lot of us with ADHD, how many planners do we have, people? I have like 25 planners. All of them are half used. Doesn't always work, okay? This one's important. Medication is bad. Shut the fuck up. Medication may not be for everyone. That is fine. But shaming medication as a whole is reckless and you are going to hurt somebody. Someone else's treatment plan is not your personal opinion playground. Stay in your lane. If your ADHD support begins with, well, everyone gets distracted, I need you to lovingly stop talking for a second. Everybody forgets things. Everyone gets distracted. But everyday forgetfulness is not the same as ADHD. That's like saying, well, everyone gets sad when someone's talking about depression. Similar word, completely different depth. Now, let's talk about how to support someone with ADHD. Supporting someone with ADHD does not mean babying them. It does not mean removing accountability. It doesn't mean letting harmful behavior slide. It means leading with understanding instead of judgment. Try asking what kind of support helps you. Do you want a reminder or would that feel annoying? Can we break this into smaller steps? Would a system make that easier? Where is this getting stuck? Or, I know you care, let's figure out what's making this hard. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is, I believe you. Believing, because so many people with ADHD have spent their whole lives being doubted. Doubted when they said they were trying. Doubted when they said they forgot. Doubted when they said they cared or when they needed help. When someone says, I believe you, that matters. That's not a free pass, it's just a starting point. And belief doesn't remove that accountability. It makes accountability possible without shame running the whole damn show. Most adults with ADHD are not trying to avoid responsibility. They're trying to find a way to carry that responsibility without being crushed by a brain. That is a difference. So now here we're going to start talking about tools for living with ADHD. Because awareness is important, but awareness without tools can turn into a whole different shame spiral, okay? You realize, okay, this is ADHD. Great. Now what? Because we still have jobs and kids and bills and laundries and emails, appointments and texts, and a brain that apparently did not receive the memo that we're adults now. So this is the part where I want to get really practical. ADHD, like we talked about, affects executive function, which means it can make planning and starting and organizing and remembering and managing time and staying engaged harder. The Mental Health Institute talks about behavioral management strategies for adults with ADHD, including support around organizing spaces and time management and to-do lists and cognitive behavioral tools. So when I talk about tools, I'm not talking about cute productivity hacks. I'm talking about these like support beams. The goal is not to become someone with a different brain. The goal is to build a life that works with the brain you actually have. Okay. So tool number 1, stop using your brain as the only storage system. That's the first rule. If it matters, it cannot only live in my head. My brain is creative and fast, but she is not always reliable with details. So I give her backup: calendar, reminders, alarm, post-it notes, phone notes, whiteboards, brain dump list, whatever works, because just remember is not a system. It's a setup. That's why I put appointments in my calendar immediately. I set reminders for things other people might just remember. I write down the random thing I need to buy, the school form I need to send, the email I need to answer, the appointment I need to schedule. I keep a little notebook with me at all times and I write it down. I do it on my phone. I have a notes list of just random bullet points of things I need to remember. Like, I have lists everywhere. And if you are a out of sight, out of mind person, get a whiteboard for your office, get a whiteboard for your kitchen, put it on post-it notes in your bathroom. That is you being responsible enough to know memory alone is not the plan. And research-backed ADHD resources support this kind of external structure, okay? The Mental Health Institute recommends checklists, sticky notes, reminders, and other memory triggers. So if you need 3 alarms, set 3 alarms. If you need a sticky note on the door, put it on the door. If you need a calendar to yell at you like a tiny assistant with attitude, let it yell. Stop judging the tool, just use the damn tool, okay? Tool 2, building landing zones for the stuff you always lose, right? If something disappears into a drawer, it might as well have moved to another country. I am a out of sight, out of mind kind of human being. Keys, wallet, badge, medication, school papers, library books, the thing you need to return, the form you swear you just had in your hand, all of it needs a home. And not a cute home designed for a fantasy version of you, like it's all aesthetic and Pinterest worthy. No, a realistic home. Do not build a system for the version of you who wakes up calm, rested, moisturized, organized, and magically has matching socks. Build a system for the rushed you, the overstimulated you, the late for school drop-off you, the version of you trying to find one shoe while someone asks for a snack. If you always drop your keys by the door, put a bowl by the door. If school papers pile up on the counter, put a labeled tray on the counter. If medication gets forgotten in the drawer, put it somewhere visible and safe where your routine already passes by. If bags and backpacks and returns become chaos, create one leaving the house zone. Not perfect, functional. Doesn't have to be aesthetic. A lot of these routines are not aesthetic because ADHD symptoms fail when they require you to become a completely different person to maintain them. Make the right thing the easy thing. Tool 3, brain dump before you organize. When my thoughts are flying everywhere, I cannot organize them while they are still attacking me from inside my head, so I brain dump. And when I say brain dump, I mean everything. Not a pretty list, not a Pinterest list, not a color-coded that girl list. I mean, write down the work thing, the kid thing, the grocery thing, the random idea, the appointment, the text you need to answer, the thing you're worried about. Get it out. I literally just have notebooks full of just a brain dump list. And I'm telling you, they have everything on them from there's goldfish on my fireplace right now. Put the goldfish away. Clean the glasses, organize the countertop, finish painting upstairs. You would think I would remember to finish painting upstairs. No, I don't. I don't remember until like randomly. So it's on a to-do list. It's a brain dump list. It's a nasty, messy, organized, just massive brain dump list. Get it out and then you look at it. Because once it's out of your head, you can make decisions. So once I have my brain dump list, then I organize. And it goes into a different list. My daily list. What matters today? What can wait? What needs to go on the calendar? What can be done in 5 minutes? What needs help? What is just noise? That last one, that matters because a brain dump is not supposed to become a 97-item shame scroll. Your brain dump is not your prison sentence. It's just getting the chaos out where you can see it. And then this is important. Choose a few things. Not all of it, just a few. Because if you take your entire brain dump and treat it like today's to-do list, congratulations, you just turned a coping tool into an emotional crime scene. Pick the top 3. Pick the thing with a deadline. Pick the thing that will matter, make tomorrow easier. Pick the thing that is causing the most stress. But don't look at every thought in your brain, like that your brain spit out, and decide you're behind on life. You're not behind. You're just sorting, okay? There is a difference. And now, speaking of tasks, tool 4, break down these tasks until they stop feeling like a threat. Clean the house is not a task. It is a threat. Get caught up on work is not a task. That is a panic. That is just panic, okay? Organize my life is not a task. Please do not start there. That has terrible vibes. We don't do it, okay? ADHD brains can freeze when the task is too big, too vague, too boring, or too emotionally loaded. Break long tasks into shorter ones and use timers then to stay on task, especially when boredom and routine makes that focus harder. So make the starting point smaller. Not clean the kitchen, clear the counter. Not do the laundry, put one load of laundry in. Not finish the product, open the document. Not answer all messages, reply to one text. Not fix my life, just set one reminder. Sometimes the win is not finishing, the win is just starting. And the win is getting your brain to go through the front door. If you're sitting there thinking that sounds too small, good, make it smaller. ADHD brains need little entry points, so you have to give yourself one. Tool 5, use timers as containers. This is huge for me. Timers help because ADHD brains can struggle with time. Time can feel like now or not now, urgent or invisible. A deadline 3 weeks away feels fake until suddenly it's tomorrow morning and your nervous system is on fire. So use timers, not because I'm a child, but because my brain needs a container. 10 minutes feels less terrifying than do this until it's done. Because until it's done sounds endless to me. My brain hears that and immediately wants to fake its own death. Okay, but I can do 10 minutes. 10 minutes of cleaning, 10 minutes of email, 10 minutes of picking up the living room, 10 minutes of paperwork. Sometimes I keep going after the timer ends. Sometimes I stop. Either way, I moved and I did the thing. I broke the freeze and that counts. So shorter work periods and movement breaks as practical supports for adults with ADHD who struggle with boredom or routine or attention that works. So use the timer. Kitchen timer, a phone timer, a visual timer, whatever keeps you from falling into the black hole. And if your phone timer turns into opening TikTok and losing 20 minutes, use a timer that is not on your phone. Okay? Know thyself, babe. Tool 6, plan the week before the week starts acting feral, okay? I need to plan my week before the week starts because if I wait until everything is happening, my brain is already in defense mode. I need to know what's coming. What do the kids need? What appointments are happening? What work deadlines are sitting there waiting to jump me? What days are going to be heavy? Where do I need reminders? Where do I need help? Where can I prep before I'm already overwhelmed? This does not have to be some perfect Sunday reset with a candle, a matching pen, and a personality, okay? It can be messy in 15 minutes. For me, it's literally sitting at my desk at my office, opening my calendar and going, okay, what's about to ruin my life if I forget it? So plan like someone who knows life is coming. Look at the week, find the danger zones, put reminders where the future you will actually see them, okay? And don't just plan tasks, plan support. If Tuesday's packed, what can you move? If the kids need something by Friday, what reminder goes off on Wednesday? It's a huge one for me. If a work deadline is coming, what is the first tiny step? If dinner is going to become a nightly crisis, what can be stupid easy? Planning ahead is not about becoming a perfectly organized robot. It's about giving future you fewer fires to put out. Tool 7, make boring tasks less boring. Boring tasks are where we go to die. Laundry, dishes, emails, paperwork, appointment, returning things, all those tiny adult tasks that are technically simple but somehow feel like offensive. So I add stimulation, music, a podcast, a timer, a little reward, doing the task with somebody nearby. If I have my husband in the room and I have something to do, it's almost like I think he's going to judge me if I don't do the task. It's called body doubling. Body doubling is huge. Have somebody in the room, call a friend on FaceTime while you have to do your homework or do something, and it makes you like go, oh, somebody's watching me, I have to get it done. Okay, change the location. Walking while making a phone call, turning into a race. It's not childish. This is just working with the brain I actually have. ADHD brains often need interest or novelty or urgency or external structure that stays engaged. We can become easily bored at work, especially with routine tasks and detailed paperwork. And I recommend strategies like timers or breaking tasks up or taking movement breaks and finding that stimulation when possible. So instead of saying, why can't I just do this boring thing? Ask, how can I make it easier to start? The question helps more than shame. Shame doesn't work because shame just stands there yelling. Tools actually help you move. This is bodily. Let's talk about body doubling, okay? Body doubling is when you do a task while someone else is present. They don't have to help. They don't have to talk. They just have to exist near you while you do the thing. And somehow, for a lot of ADHD brains, that changes everything. It turns, I'm alone with this task and my brain is refusing to cooperate into, there's another person here and now this feels more real. That can look like cleaning while your friend is on FaceTime, answering emails while your partner sits nearby, working on a task while someone else works on their own thing, going to a coffee shop because the presence of other people helps you stay in motion, joining a virtual co-working session, asking someone, can you sit with me for 20 minutes while I start this? Body doubling is widely discussed in like ADHD communities, and current research is starting to study it as like a self-management strategy where the presence of another person can help with starting and completing a task. One recent research paper described body doubling as using another person's presence to help initiate and complete tasks, though they're still working on evidence, but trust me, people, it works. So it is not weird if you focus better when someone else is there. That is an external structure. Use it. Sometimes we don't need someone to do the task for us. We just need someone nearby so our brain stops treating a task like a hostage negotiation. Tool 9, add friction to distractions and reduce friction for what matters. This one is huge. ADHD brains are very sensitive to friction. If the helpful thing is buried or complicated, hidden, or takes too many steps, we might not do it. If the distracting thing is easy and shiny and right there, good luck to us all. That's what we're doing. So make the helpful thing easier. Put the medication where your morning routine can see it. Put the gym shoes by the door. Put the return bag in the car. Put the school forms in one tray. Put the charger where you actually sit. Then add friction to the distractions. Move the apps, put the phone across the room, use website blockers, turn off notifications. That's been huge for me. Have to turn off all my notifications, or I just have my phone on Do Not Disturb. Charge your phone outside the bedroom if bedtime scrolling keeps hijacking your sleep. Do whatever makes the thing you want easier and the thing that derails you slightly more annoying. That is not about having perfect discipline. It's just about designing an environment so the discipline doesn't have to carry the whole damn load. Tool 10, ask for help before you're drowning. This one is hard, especially if you're used to overfunctioning, but asking for help is a tool too. Sometimes help looks like asking someone to remind you. Sometimes it looks like telling your partner, I need you to take this off my plate. Sometimes it looks like asking a friend to sit on the phone while you clean or answer emails. It looks like therapy or medication. Sometimes it looks like ADHD coaching or cognitive behavioral therapy. It can do a lot. Just ask for help. Help is not failure. Help is structure, and structure is not weakness. It is how we stop pretending we're supposed to carry everything alone. Tool 11, build a reset instead of waiting to fall apart. This one is for the people who fall off the routine and then decide the whole system is dead. You miss one day, and then two, and then the planner disappears, the laundry mutates, the emails pile up, the calendar becomes decorative, and suddenly you're like, well, I failed again. No, okay, you did not fail. You just need a reset plan. ADHD systems need re-entry points because life interrupts us. Kids get sick, work gets busy, routines break, travel happens, you get overwhelmed, your brain gets bored of the systems that worked last month. That does not mean you are hopeless. It means the system needs a reset button. So create one, okay? A Sunday night reset, a Monday morning reset, a 15-minute clear the desk reset. I do this all the time. If my desk feels overwhelming, I just stop and I clean it and I need a reset. A what did I forget list, a top 3 things today list, a where are we at calendar check, a no shame, just restart rule, because the goal is never not falling off. You are going to fall off. The goal is knowing how to come back without turning it into a whole character assassination. Tool 12, let the tools help without apologizing. And finally, I let the tools help me without apologizing. And finally, the last tool, let the tools help without apologizing for needing them. Medication helps me. Lists help me. Reminders help me. Timers help me. Brain dumps help me. Body doubling helps me. Visual system and asking for help and planning and therapy and movement and simple routines help. And this is not just me. When adults with ADHD talk honestly, especially women and moms, you hear the same things over and over. Reminders, alarms, calendars, sticky notes. So no, the tools are not extra. They are how we stop making our brain carry everything alone. That does not make me weak. It makes me someone who finally stopped trying to raw dog life with a brain that clearly needs a damn system. The goal is not to become someone with a different brain. The goal is to build a life that works with the brain you actually have. And if I could go back and sit next to little Lauren after she failed that history test, the one she studied for, the one she cared about, the one that made her feel like something was wrong with her, I would tell her, you are not dumb, babe. You are smart. Your brain just works differently. And I'm so sorry nobody knew how to explain that to you sooner. I'm sorry you have so much potential started sounding less like encouragement and more like proof that everyone thought you were choosing to fail. I'm sorry you carried shame that was never yours. But one day, I promise you, you are going to understand this brain and you are going to stop trying to force yourself to function like everyone else. You are going to find the tools and use medication and make the lists. You are going to realize needing help never meant you were weak. It meant you needed support. And once we figure out how to work with your brain instead of against it, you are going to be unstoppable. So now I want you to reflect and I want you to be honest. Have you judged someone with ADHD unfairly? Have you called someone lazy when you didn't understand? Have you assumed a kid was bad when maybe they were overwhelmed? Have you shamed yourself for needing tools? Have you used I should be able to do this as a weapon against yourself? Have you spent years thinking you were broken when maybe you needed support? And if you are, can you let that grief turn into are you grieving a version of yourself who did not know what was really going on? And if you are, can you let that grief turn into support instead of more shame? Ask questions, get evaluated, build the systems, talk to somebody, learn your brain, support your brain, and stop letting people who don't live in your head decide what support you're allowed to use. This is the part I want you to take with you. ADHD is not laziness. It is not stupidity. It is not bad parenting. It is not someone being too much, too messy, too dramatic, or too distracted to care. ADHD is real, and if you live with it, you deserve tools and support and treatment that is right for you in a life built with your brain in mind. Not shame, not judgment, not another lecture from someone who doesn't live in your head. Medication is not weakness. Lists are not weakness. Reminders and timers and asking for help are not weakness. Those are tools. And there's power in finally saying, I'm done fighting my brain like it's the enemy. I'm going to learn it and support it. And I'm going to build a life that works with it. Because ADHD is not an excuse. Once you understand your brain, you can stop shaming yourself and stop supporting yourself. And if someone has a problem with the tools that help you function, fuck what they think. They do not have to live in your brain. You do. So choose support and choose understanding and tools and compassion and choose yourself, because confidence is a choice. And sometimes confidence looks like asking for help. Sometimes it looks like taking the medication and setting the reminder and making the list. Sometimes it looks like my brain is like saying my brain works differently and I'm done apologizing for the tools that help me live better. You are not broken. Your brain just needs a different blueprint. And once you learn how to work with that, you are not behind. You are dangerous in the best damn way. And now, before we go, make sure you subscribe to the Watch Me podcast so you don't miss next episode, and come hang out with me at Instagram at the Lauren Fritz and TikTok at Watch Me Pod, because the conversation does not stop there. And like I always say, I love you, I'm proud of you, and I believe in you. And if you are having trouble loving yourself, being proud of yourself, or believing in yourself right now, that's okay. Until you can go do that, use my love and belief in you to get up and kill it today. Now go choose yourself.